how to find the perfect fit in your women's work boots and why we did a specific range just for women in our Ergonx Helium work boots. Hey guys, it's Ken here and I'm the podiatrist from Ergonx, and today we're talking about why we had to develop a specific set of sizings just for ladies' feet to fit their feet better in work boots. And essentially it's because of the differences between the men's and the women's feet. So generally, women's feet are narrow in the heel and by comparison broader in the forefoot, where a men's foot will be broader in the heel and broader in the forefoot, so just as a more chunky foot. So we need to make a last to account for that. So the last is usually a D fitting and a women's D fitting. With this, that's what we made our work boots on. So what that allows for, it means that it'll be able to grip your heel, but also give you enough room in the forefoot, not to have your feet slopping around too much, but also not to be too tight. The reason we went with a D fitting is because generally we wear a thicker sock during the workday, so we need a little bit more room, so a B fitting won't quite cut it in a lady's work boot. And also at the end of the day your feet can swell, so we want to allow for that swelling so they're comfortable all day, not just at the start. So that's the first thing we allow for, the narrow heel and the broad forefoot, and we use the D fitting ladies last to fit your feet better. So when you get a better fitting work boot, your feet will be more comfortable across the workday and they won't ache as much. So you'll be happier with your work boots. So the next thing we look at is what are the other differences between men's and women's feet, and it's the toe length generally in women is longer than a men's toe length generally. So we just need to make sure that the sizings are adjusted to fit the women's feet. So we do this by measuring your feet in millimeters, and then you can adapt your foot length to the sizing. So say for example you're 293 millimeters in length, you can go to our size guide, click 293 millimeters, and that'll tell you what size you are. Now that really doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, but the women's sizing generally is a little bit longer. So that's how we get around that. You'll be able to measure your feet and then it'll tell you what size you are in the D fitting. We've also allowed for enough room, depth and width, of course, to make your feet comfortable. We do that in both the men's and women's sizes. And the other thing we do, a lady's foot is generally a little bit more flexible, so it tends to roll in a little bit more than a man's foot. And that can be hormonal, that can be genetic. These are all just generalizations too. So what we do is we include this arch support orthotic insole in our work boot, and it helps to raise up your arch, to keep your arches a little bit higher so they don't roll in completely during the workday, and it makes them more comfortable, so it won't strain this ligament here, the plantar fascia, that actually as your foot hits the ground it will stretch out, and over time, if we do that 10,000 times a day for weeks and weeks on end, it can lead to plantar fasciitis and heel pain, as well as shin splints and knee pain, hip pain, and just general muscle tightness. So it's really important that if you've got a generic woman's foot or the stereotypical woman's foot with the narrow heel and the broad forefoot, and you're having trouble fitting into men's work boots, that will probably be the big indicator that you need to have a look at a specifically designed work boot that's for your foot, not for just the general population or a man. So get over to Ergonx and check out the women's fit orthotic insole arch support podiatrist design work boots, and they'll help to support and cushion your feet and make them more comfortable.